The Earth is filled with bizarre and interesting natural phenomena, some of them so unique and unusual that it's hard to believe they exist without seeing them with your own eyes. One should try to visit as many of these places as possible to completely comprehend the magic of our planet. From scary incidents to places filled with joy, here are the most bizarre natural phenomena. Birds, for the most part, are pretty harmless, sweet little creatures, until a huge flock of them decide to move together, being all startled. That's not a fun experience for anyone. This massive murmuration is just what happened in Austin, Texas, USA. The situation got so out of hand that the flying creatures blocked a whole traffic lane in the city. Many things can contribute to the startling of the birds. In this case, it was the cars passing by the highway. Usually, the birds hang around on the railings, but as soon as a car or vehicle passes by, they get shocked and start to fly here, and there are groups. Before you know it, within minutes, thousands of birds fill up the whole lane and the sky above. One lucky soul who caught the bizarre natural phenomenon on camera said all this happened literally within seconds, and the birds started landing on the edge of the highway. As one may guess, that forced him to step out of the lane and forced the cars to stop abruptly on the road. The bird apocalypse is actually common natural phenomena. This may seem fun and games for a while, but it's actually very dangerous given that these can disturb the drivers while driving and lead to major accidents. If the land cracking on the famous movie Ice Age freaked you out, then brace yourself for this one. This giant crack you can see on the screen is not from a movie. That's an actual crack on the land that's about 50 feet deep and 65 feet across, slicing the west of Nairobi, Kenya in half. The scariest part about this is the crack formed almost overnight, and needless to say, people living around it were seriously scared. The reason behind this apocalyptic incident is the movement of the Earth's tectonic plates. These sections of the Earth's crust move about an inch every year, and it's believed that in the next 50 million years, Africa may be split into two. Many scientists, like earthquake geologist Wendy Bowen, believe that Africa is actually slowly splitting in two. However, this massive and obvious crack was created in a flash, according to her. She believes it's an Earth's fissure, the common example of which would be the kind of thing that we would see in Arizona after a heavy rainstorm. Some others believe the crack got exposed due to a rainstorm in that area. Whichever the case may be, it's equally terrifying to realize that the Earth is drifting apart. But if you don't want to drift apart from enjoying interesting videos such as this one, then hit the like and subscribe button so you'll know whenever we upload fun and informative videos. Blood rain is one of the go-to features of a horror movie, and we enjoy it. But when it becomes real, it's bound to scare the life out of many people. That's exactly what happened quite a few times in the UK. Don't be alarmed though, this isn't actual blood. It is the sand that was carried from the desert by the clouds that gave the rain its red look. This incident usually happens due to the sandstorms in the Sahara Desert, which is around 2,000 miles away from the UK. The desert sand particles get attached to the wind and gets houses and garden furniture in this red dust. The blood rain happens quite often in the UK, about a few times every year. It starts in the middle of the monsoon and falls intermittently for several weeks. Apart from the inconvenience of moving around, the color of the sand is strong enough to stain clothes. Water puts out fire. That's the universal truth for everywhere else on Earth apart from the eternal flame falls. This unusual flame is located in Grotto of the Waterfall in the Shale Creek Preserve, a section of Chestnut Ridge Park in western New York. In the cave of this 35-foot waterfall, there is a small flickering flame that has been burning for years. It is believed that the Native Americans may have lit the fire thousands of years ago. Scientists for a long time believed that the flame is burning because of the gas pockets created by the old, extremely hot bedrock made of shale. The heat breaks down the carbon molecules of the shale, and that's where the gas is coming from. But after further research now, we know that the flame and seepages have been there for millions of years, and the source rock is about 400 meters deep below and not warm enough to generate the natural gas that the previous theory was talking about. So there's definitely something else that's keeping this flame alive, and the researchers still couldn't figure out what it is. Is it some ancient curse or spell, or some weird unexplained natural phenomena that we still can't figure out? What do you think? Let us know in the comments below. Ice caves aren't a mystery to most of us because of their frequent presence in cartoons and movie sets, but the process that creates this natural phenomena is truly fascinating. These caves require a huge amount of perennial ice and a temperature below 0 degrees Celsius at all times in at least some parts of the cave for them to not melt. Also, there needs to be a constant water flow in the cold parts of the cave. They have become a very popular destination for tourists and are on the bucket list for the winter activity of many people. The beauty and temporal nature of the caves make the experience even more amazing. However, there are quite a few facts to take into consideration for perfect ice cave events. Everything has to be at just the right temperature since there's still a lot of open water surface on Lake Superior. For the ice surface to be firm and stable, it's super important that the weather is cold. These caves are truly beautiful and a great experience if everything is at the right temperature. This tree might just be the strangest one on our list. The Socotra dragon tree is the closest visible proof that trees have lives. Why? Well, you're about to find out. When you cut through one of these strange trees, you'll instantly notice something very close to blood coming out of the bark. It's as if you've cut into an animal. Don't panic though, this isn't actual blood. It's the red resin that comes out of the tree. The Socotra dragon tree is exclusively found on the island of Socotra, Yemen. The island now has some remnants of prehistoric dragon's blood forest on the granite mountains and limestone plateaus, including the tree. These trees have been used commercially for centuries and play an important role in Yemen's economy. The reason that these trees are so popular is the red resin that comes out once you cut them. It's also known as emzola and has a ton of medicinal properties. In ancient times, it was also known as cinnabar, and it was a large part of the trade before 60 AD. A kind of red dye called dragon's blood is made from the red resin, and that's the reason behind the intense red color of the Stradivarius violins. Even without the trade, the locals use the berries from the tree to treat their livestock. Just a small amount of berries keep the cows and goats healthy, but consuming large amounts of the berries might cause health complications. The sad part is, due to climate change, Socotra is drying out. These trees need regular monsoons to grow properly, but now since the monsoons have become irregular and patchy, the trees are getting affected. Marbles are beautiful and they look great in our houses. Now imagine a house completely made of marble. Well, not exactly a house, but a cave made of marble can certainly be found, and it's the most beautiful cave on Earth. This gorgeous cave is called the Marble Cathedral. The cave was created over 6,000 years by the crashing waves of Lake General Carrera of Patagonia in southern Chile. The cave is actually a part of a huge peninsula made of a solid marble surrounded by glacial Lake General Carrera that spans the Chile-Argentina border. The intricate caverns are made by the lake's waves hitting the marble for thousands of years, so if you want to visit, you'll have to have a long journey in order to get to the beautiful marble castle. First, you'll have to take a flight to the city of Santiago, the capital of Chile. Then comes the difficult task of getting inside the cave. The swirling pattern that we see on the cave walls is actually engraved on the walls. It is the reflection of the lake's azure water, the level of which changes depending on weather and season. The water level and the beauty of the cave stay at their highest during the summer. At that time, there's a magnificent deep blue hue all over the cave that makes it seem like heaven. The water level increases due to the melting of the surrounding glaciers during the summer. When we think of deserts, we think of dry sand and scorching heat, but that's not nearly the case for the Atacama Desert in Chile. This desert is nature's indication that even if things seem dry in life, flowers can still bloom. To have a bit more context on the subject, the Atacama Desert is actually known to be one of the driest deserts on the planet. In fact, the climate around the desert is so dry that scientists have studied it to figure out the possibility of life on Mars, which has similar living conditions. But everything changed when a surprise heavy rainstorm hit the whole region and created a truly breathtaking and strange natural phenomenon. After the rain, thousands of colorful flowers bloomed in that dry desert. The flowers just looked like a gorgeous blanket over the dry desert. This stunning phenomena is called Deserito Floridio, or flowering desert, and it happens once every 7 years. The bloom usually stays until November before it starts to clear off. Everything was fun and games until 2015 when the region had 7 years worth of rain in just 12 hours. As you can guess, it didn't end well, and according to the weather report, the storm took 7 lives and caused substantial damage to the whole region. What is the world's largest, most dense organism? The first thing that's probably coming to mind is the extinct dinosaur, or at least some kind of gigantic animal. Well, it's none of those. It's actually the Pando-aspen clone on the Fish Lake National Forest. The place has thousands of aspen trees. The question is, if they are just trees, how can they be the world's largest, most dense organism? It's because of the collective root system that weighs over 13 million pounds. This root system connects 40,000 aspen trees that are believed to be created for one single seed at the end of the last ice age. This place is truly relaxing in the scorching summer heat of Utah and truly magnificent during fall. During the fall, the whole 106 acres of land of green turns into a golden beacon of light. Walking through the clone in spring is like experiencing a page from a storybook. Speaking of unusual trees, meet the rainbow eucalyptus. These are the only members of the eucalyptus family that have these pops of colors. These trees are called rainbow gum, and they are native to the Philippines, Indonesia, and Papua New Guinea. These are the only kind of eucalyptus that grows in the rainforest extending into the northern hemisphere. These trees are famous for their multicolored bark and are in high demand. To grow these trees, the easier way is to plant the cuttings of the trees in rich medium to wet soil with a lot of sun exposure. However, this method works only with trees below 5 years old. Once the rainbow gum reaches 5 years, root inhibition stops the generation of roots from cuttings. One other thing to keep in mind is that these trees are tolerant to frost, so they may not do so well in snow-covered areas. The rainbow gums are observed to change colors frequently by Fairchild Tropical Botanic Garden in Florida. These trees grow best in lowland and lower montane rainforests from sea levels to altitudes of up to 1,800 meters. The Great Blue Hole looks like the eye of the Earth from the top, and her eye is deep, really deep. It's actually a giant marine sinkhole situated off the coast of Belize. The sinkhole was formed because of several episodes of Quaternary glaciation when sea levels were much lower. But with time, the ocean levels started to rise, and the huge cave also got flooded with water. Because of its depth and crystal clear water, many tourists, especially divers, visit the Blue Hole frequently near the center of Lighthouse Reef, a small atoll 70 kilometers from the mainland and Belize City. The depth is the home for many unusual fishes and marine creatures, and divers love to dive in these crystal clear waters to observe many rare species of fish like midnight parrotfish, Caribbean reef shark, and other juvenile fish species. Many kinds of sharks such as bull sharks and hammerheads can be found there occasionally as well. The sinkhole is filled with mystery and secrets and is a must-visit place for divers and travel enthusiasts alike. A tsunami is horrifying as it is. It has the power of destroying anything and everything in its way. Now imagine a tsunami of ice. Even though it may seem impossible, this is exactly what happened to many places in the world, including North America. The ice tsunami is a mysterious natural phenomenon that happens when a huge wave of bone-chilling ice from the ocean or the lake crashes on the shore. The waves can be up to 12 meters high, destroying everything on their way. Ice tsunami is usually caused by temperature fluctuations, wind action, or changing water levels, and guess who is behind all these factors? Global warming. That's who. Global warming directly affects the formation and frequency of ice sheave events, which then leads to more and more open water space for the ice to move. It causes low-pressure systems that destabilize the ice sheets and sends them toward the shore. The ocean-atmosphere interactions are very complex, and this can lead to severe and frequent storms of the mid-latitudes and then creates just favorable conditions for the ice tsunamis to happen. These can and do have devastating effects on coastal Arctic communities. Even though much research has been done on this subject, there's still a lot to figure out about how these ice tsunamis form and why it still remains an unexplained natural phenomenon for the most part. Now, I'm sure we've all seen salmons in stores, but how many of us have seen salmons crossing a road in groups? Well, Leonard and his father were lucky enough to witness this natural phenomenon on their way back from Ells Springs Trout Hatchery. When she saw the first salmon, she instantly started filming the whole incident for her sister, who had never seen a fish swimming and jumping across a road, and were glad she did. When Leonard uploaded the video on the internet, it became viral immediately. The salmons are from the Skokomosh River and move to the creeks to spawn or lay eggs. Things get interesting when the heavy rain in that area flood the creeks and roads. The salmon spread everywhere. This situation has less to do with scientific facts and more to do with the population fact in the hatcheries. The population boom combined with the heavy rain create the perfect motivation for the salmons to cross the roads. A jellyfish sting is one of the worst pains a human can experience in their lifetime, and despite popular belief, urinating on the jellyfish sting can reduce the pain. Please refrain from this disgusting act and seek proper medical assistance. If you're a person who doesn't enjoy getting stung by these devious little creatures, then the Jellyfish Lake is not the place you'd want to go to. It's a lake located in Isle Mok Island in Palau that's filled with thousands of jellyfish. The island is a part of the Rock Islands, a group of small, rocky, mostly uninhabited islands in Palau's southern lagoon, in between Koror and Peleliu. The Jellyfish Lake is just one of 70 other marine lakes inside the Rock Islands. Millions of golden jellyfish migrate horizontally from the ocean to the lake daily. As one would guess, the lake is connected to the ocean. It's connected through fissures and tunnels in the limestone of an ancient Miocene reef. However, the lake is separated enough for the diversity of species in the lake to be greatly reduced from the nearby lagoon. The lake is just dominated by the golden and possibly some other species of jellyfish. They have evolved in the lake for over 12,000 years, which makes them somewhat different than other species of jellyfish living in nearby lagoons. Mushrooms aren't just precious pieces of fungi, they are also the most interesting things gifted to us by Mother Nature. A fairy ring is a round arch formed by mushrooms. They are generally found in frosted areas, but they are also seen in grasslands or rangelands. These rings can grow up to 10 meters in diameter, getting stable with time as the fungus grows and seeks food underground. About 60 species of mushrooms can form the fairy ring. The fairy rings can easily be detected by sporocaps and rings or arcs, as well as by a necrotic zone, or a ring of dark green grass. These have been an interesting part of many folklore and myth worldwide, especially in Western Europe. They are considered as good or bad fortune depending on where the folklore is from. In some cases, they are linked with witches or the devil, and in some places, they are linked with the fairies. Among all the amazing traits ice can have, spinning like a lazy Susan or gramophone disc is the last that comes to mind. Well, just because something doesn't come to mind easily doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Be prepared to be amazed by this craziest natural phenomenon. This disc of spinning ice disc is about 300 feet wide, and according to the Herald, it's the largest spinning disc yet. The disc stays in one place but changes its opacity depending on the time of day and cloud coverage. These spinning discs can actually be found pretty easily in many places from Russia to Washington. These spinning plates are the perfect example that sometimes accidents can also result in something fun. The scientists believe that the river currents are initially responsible for the formation of the round discs, and then the change in temperature keeps the discs spinning. The shift from warm water to cold water melts the ice accordingly, which creates a vortex under the disc, and that's what keeps the disc moving. The warmer the water, the faster the disc moves. Speaking of happy accidents, meet the snow rollers. Think of them as nature's way of making snowballs, but in cylindrical shapes. These are rare meteorological phenomena that happen only in a handful of places. Just like snowballs pick up snow along the way by rolling downhill and getting bigger, these also pick up snow along the way starting as a snow roll. Their sizes can vary from being as small as a tennis ball to as big as a car or even bigger. Typically, they are a few inches wide. The interesting fact is, these snow rollers are hollow in the middle, and this happens because the initial layers that form the cylinder are much weaker than the outer layers and can very easily be blown away. If you're hungry enough, you might even see them as a donut or Swiss roll. By now, I think we've all realized that Mother Nature never fails to amaze us. On that note, if you find yourself watching some goats chilling in the trees on your way to Morocco, don't be alarmed. You're not hallucinating or daydreaming. These goats actually exist. They are special species of Moroccan goats that like to hang out with their friends on the branches of the argania or argan trees, munching on the green or brown bean-like fruits as a quick snack. These fruits must be really tasty because the tree is filled with thorns and most creatures don't dare to climb it, but these goats do just because of the delicious treats. The most interesting fact is that these goats love the argan fruit so much that they're the sole inspiration for their cloven-hooved young to climb the thorny trees. The reality of the situation is that Morocco's natural food resource isn't that rich for these animals to be well fed throughout the year with other low-hanging fruits. So once they've finished all the available fruits for the season, they embark on this mission to get this tasty dinner. The bioluminescent forest is every camper's dream, and rightfully so. Can you imagine camping in a forest with illuminated trees with glowing plants and mushrooms? Friedrich van Schuur and Tarek Malwad could, and what they created with their imagination are incredible. The duo was inspired by the bioluminescence of the inner depths of the ocean, and in animals like jellyfish and fireflies, they decided to recreate that in a jungle. Sadly, you can't go camping there because there isn't an actual forest but a short animation film they created. Friedrich and Tarek created animated video projections that were programmed to cast moving images of light across irregular surfaces. Then composer Akim True took the whole thing to a completely different otherworldly level in which a verdant forest is bespattered with subtle interplays between light and shadow. This bioluminescent forest is an indication of how creative and imaginative the human brain can be. As kids, we've all drawn really round, perfectly shaped clouds, copying the coloring books. Ever wondered where they were inspired from? Well, they were most probably the 2D version of the Madamus clouds. These are actually pouch-like protrusions hanging from the undersides of the clouds, such as a thunderstorm, anvils, and some other clouds. Madamus comes from the Latin word mama. These clouds are mainly made of ice and can cover hundreds of miles in any direction. These are basically upside-down clouds that form when the air is cold and moist and stay 20,000 feet or higher in the sky. Mammatus clouds usually stay about 10 to 15 minutes before they start to clear up. These may look scary, but they are pretty harmless themselves. That said, they do often indicate something not so harmless, such as strong storms and tornadoes. So despite the strong urge to observe the beauty of these clouds, take proper caution for an incoming storm, even a tornado. Since these clouds can be super dense and the indication of a storm, the pilots fly as far away from them as possible. If you Google butterfly pictures, the pictures you'll come across are most likely the monarch butterflies. You know, the beautiful yellow-orange ones with black stripes and white dots all over the wings. Apart from their beautiful appearance, they are also known for their yearly journey from their breeding ground. Every fall, the eastern North American monarchs travel almost 3,000 miles from the east of the Rocky Mountains to central Mexico, and western North American monarchs travel to a shorter destination, the west of the Rockies to the California coast. Researchers have proven that the migratory monarchs have a magnetic compass that helps them figure out their way to the destination. These migratory butterflies are one of the strongest in the butterfly community. The amount of endurance it takes to make such a long journey is simply beyond imagination. Just because something is small doesn't mean it's weak, and there's no greater example of that than the Saltstraumen. It's a small strait that has one of the strongest tidal currents in the world. The strait is 10 kilometers southeast of the town of Bodø, Norway. The government was able to construct the bridge on Norwegian County Road 17 to cross the Saltstraumen despite its intense current. In fact, the current is so strong that there are many whirlpools in the water. Despite the danger, the strait is a go-to place for many anglers because of its large variety of fish like saithe, cod, wolffish, rosefish, halibut, and the specialty of the area, coalfish. The largest coalfish caught from these waters weighed 50 pounds just using a fishing rod. The only birds that can dive in this strong current for mussels are the eiders. We've all heard of a rainbow, but what about a moonbow? Moonbow, or lunar rainbow, is the most magical experience you can get on this planet. In theory, the lunar rainbow occurs every full moon, but we can't always see it. Whether you can see it or not depends a lot on the weather and the season. As opposed to rainbows that occur when a rainstorm happens in the sunlight, the moonbows occur when a rainstorm happens in the moonlight. Moonbows or rainbows are just refracted water particles in the air. Moonbows can be seen when the sky is clear and the moonlight is at its brightest. To properly get this magical experience, you can go to the Victoria Falls in Zambia. When the twilight settles, during a full moon, the park is open for visitors to observe and enjoy the special lunar rainbow. Rainbows don't only come in all colors, they also come in all shapes, and if you're lucky enough, you might just catch a glimpse of a cloud rainbow or the so-called fire rainbow. This rare phenomena occurs when the sun is higher than 58 degrees in the sky. These are actually circumhorizontal arcs, and whether or not they're rare in a certain place highly depends on the latitude and weather conditions. For example, they can be seen 5 to 10 times more in Los Angeles than in London. Another thing that is responsible for the colorful mess is cirrus clouds. These higher clouds are thin and wispy, and because of the low temperature there, they form ice crystals inside them. When the sun is higher than 58 degrees, the light refracts through the plate-like crystals, acting like a prism. And that creates the super cool rainbow clouds, or should they be called cloud rainbows? Or does the existing name fire rainbow suit them better? What do you think? Share your views in the comments below. No, it's not a hot dog bun with the sun in the middle. Not only is that impossible, but it's not a great idea because, it shouldn't mess with the sun. We're talking about something called mock sun or parhelion. It's an atmospheric optical phenomenon that appears at 22 degrees on both sides of the sun as luminous spots. The closer the sun is to the edge, the more reddish it looks. The outer portions of the spots are usually white, but they can also have all sorts of different colors that are occasionally visible. This weird natural phenomenon takes place where the sun or moon shines through a thin cirrus cloud composed of hexagonal ice crystals falling with the principal axis vertical, as opposed to the halo phenomenon that occurs when the principal axes are randomly arranged in a plane perpendicular to the sun's or moon's rays. The red end appears on the inside because of its being bent the least, and the blue appears on the outside if it's visible, that is. The sundogs are most commonly seen in the winter in the middle latitudes. Hills and mountains made of chocolate are every kid's dream come true, right? I mean, who doesn't love chocolate? These chocolate hills in the middle of the island of Bohol in the Philippines are truly delicious looking, but don't go running to grab a bite of this chocolatey goodness just yet because unfortunately the hills aren't actually made of chocolate, they just look like it. This mind-blowing landscape can be found on a small island in the Philippines that has at least 1,268 hills. Some believe the number may be as high as 1,776. The hills themselves aren't too big, with the highest one reaching only about 120 meters. The average height of them is somewhere between 30 to 50 meters. The hills are in perfect conical shape and spread across 50 square kilometers. You can visit these chocolate-like hills any time of the year because they are the perfect shape no matter if it's rainy season or dry. You can't climb them through, and you can only enjoy their beauty from a viewing deck a bit far from the landscape. That's just a small price to pay to preserve this magnificent land site. If you don't like the cute small hills, then perhaps these rock pillars in the Walagian National Forest Park would be more of your liking. The Walagian Scenic Area is famous for its pillar rocks. These aren't just any random rock pillars, they are made of quartz sandstone, as opposed to the typical limestone eroded pillars. How these are formed is a work of art itself. These high pillars are formed due to physical erosion caused by the intense rain in the area. These pillars aren't the only wonders of this landscape either. The park also has mountains, dense forests, and clouds, all of which, combined, paint the ultimate picture of a Chinese landscape. These have inspired many artworks. Many people who live around the famous Walagian and Zhangjiai National Park area of western Hunan, such as the Tuzhai people. They are also an inseparable part of the mountain range. Rain is an ice, calming, and romantic experience until it turns into a hailstorm. This is a bizarre natural phenomenon you should definitely know about before your next drenching in the rain adventure. The hailstorm is basically an unusual weather phenomenon that occurs when a thunderstorm takes water droplets too high in the sky where they reach the freezing level. The droplet then grows when it comes in contact with supercooled water or water vapor. This whole process creates the hailstones. Hailstones are basically chunks of ice that fall from the sky with rain. It's not very uncommon all around the world. In the USA, a series of strong storms pass all across North Texas and drop a huge amount of hailstorms in some places of the state. Not so surprisingly, these ice chunks that fall way high up from the sky can cause substantial damage to properties and even take human lives if people aren't careful. This is one of the most dangerous natural phenomena, so be aware of it the next time you go drenching in the rain. Spiders are sort of creepy crawlies that no one ever wanted landing on them. So when we get to know that among all the weird things that can rain on us, from blood-red water to hailstones, spiders are also a possibility. Going out becomes very scary. This is one of nature's creepiest pranks. The spider rain is exactly as it sounds. It's hundreds or thousands of spiders pouring down on whatever it is on the ground. An Australian teen was lucky or unlucky enough to capture the whole thing on camera when he was visiting his parents in town. This is actually a mass ballooning event in which hundreds of arachnids climb up to the tops of trees and fence poles, lift their rear ends into the air, and let out strands of silk. These silk threads then catch the air current and lift the spiders up in the air and allow them to float up to 4 kilometers in the sky. That's what causes the notorious spider rain. This is a quite common occurrence in Australia, but the incident also has been reported in Tennessee and Texas. It seems like these airborne little pieces of terror are spreading. Next time when you step out, keep an eye out for them. When a storm hits the sea near the beaches instead of a massive tsunami, something interesting happens. This is actually the condition of the beaches in New South Wales and Queensland in Australia. The severe storm has created an enormous amount of foam in the sea. The sea just looks like a ginormous pool of whipped cream with big waves. These waves can cause serious damage, and the most difficult part of all is it's almost impossible to see anything underneath the water, and this water is the home of many venomous sea snakes. So if anyone is hanging out at the beach, they won't be able to see a snake approaching them. But the good news is, even though the snakes are venomous, it's very rare that someone would pass away because of the bites. It's probably not a great idea to hang out in this intense sea foam anyway. So, which one of these was your favorite? Have you seen any of them in person? Do let us know in the comments below. Like always, if you enjoyed it, be sure to give us a big thumbs up and leave us some love in the comments section. To keep up to date with all our awesome videos, be sure to hit subscribe and turn your notifications on so you never miss a thing. Until next time, do take care of yourself.